Board of Governors, and we are very fortunate. We have increased the number of women by 100%. We now have 2 women governors in MAP, and both of them are members also of the Filipina CEO Circle. One of them is Carol Dominguez. She's going to be serving as a secretary of the Board of Governors, and the other is Risa Mantaring, who is serving as treasurer. So as you can see, even with MAP, we need to infiltrate it, the organization, because we have very, very few women at the top of organizations. And that is one of the aims of forums such as this, because we hold up half of the sky, and yet at the very top, we represent, as I think the last figure that you gave me was yes, about 7%.
7%.
As in the C-suites, the CEOs, CFOs, CTOs, in the top of the 1,000 corporations of the Philippines, where we represent over 40% of the workforce. So we've got a long way to go, and we don't want to wait 169 years.
Thank you.
Unlike the MAP, that only has 1 woman on the board, in the FCC there are no men. By design. The Filipina CEO Circle was born out of a question, really, before it became an idea. It was born out of the question, how many female CEOs are there in the top 1,000 companies of this country? The answer was quite dismal. Maan pointed to a statistic about 7%. But here's an even more frightening fact. When you distill that number and decompose it and look at what makes up that 7%, and try to identify which of those really rose through the ranks through meritocracy, therefore not child of owner, the number is far lower. So there was a need to, well, then the idea was born, and the idea was, how do we bring these women together? And as we came together, first informally as you know, as breakfast mates, I suppose, in 2014, 2015, you know, we came together with the understanding and with the question of, how do we bring more of us into the C-suite? How do we bring more of us into boards of companies where decisions are being made, and how do we influence change? Last year, the Filipina CEO Circle, bravely and valiantly, like most female CEOs do, you know, stumbled upon the notion that we should have a forum for women. To have a forum wherein the topics that were discussed were not ones that were commonly talked about. Not training per se, the way most people understand it, but something different. And we called it inspired conversations. And this year, when Marifez Zamora approached the FCC and said, why don't we do this within the MAP? You know, it was an absolutely right fit to bring MAP and FCC together. As Susan says, this idea for this forum, I mean, you know, putting together a forum is not easy when you have a day job. It's like the third thing we have to do, right? See, I have a day job still. I'm still responding to emails while I'm talking to you. But you know, you don't want to just put a forum for the heck of putting together a forum, right? You want it to be curated appropriately. You want it to have a message, and you want it to tell a story. And last year, around Women's Month, I think it was last year, you know, the World Economic Forum published a study that basically said, if the rate and the pace of change does not change, then it will take 169 years for women to achieve parity. And I think that was the wake-up call for many corporations globally, certainly the top corporations globally, to wake up and say, this is unacceptable. It's unacceptable that it's not possible in our lifetime. And it's unacceptable that it's not even possible in our children's lifetime. In a world where technology advances and you get the new iPhone kind of every other year, how is it possible that something is going to take 169 years? And for us, that was the battle cry, right? This is our way of throwing the gauntlet down and beginning the conversation. This is not training classes that we have. These are life lessons. And our hope is hearing the leaders, both women and men, at this forum, that a new generation decides to claim it, decides to own it, and decides to